Use your powers for evil, kid.
Your evil is mine.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very musical episode of Next Stop Everywhere. That's right, we're going to talk music today, but not in the way you may think. For those of you know, I'm not fixing to do a Bruce Springsteen monologue, even though, the boss did just turn 65. No, we're going to talk about the Ken Spivey band, and I probably have misspoke his name already.
No, that's actually, you were one of the few people. You said it correctly.
Yes.
So
Very nice.
congratulations.
Yeah,
We got a lot of variations.
Yes.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to meet Ken at DragonCon, and he is a singer-songwriter with a special twist. So I'm going to let him introduce himself, and we also have one of his fellow band members with us.
Well, my name is Ken Spivey, and I'm a singer-songwriter, and I was originally a Renaissance Fair performer, and then I took my Celtic music, well, not originally, but at one point earlier in my many regenerations, I was a Renaissance Fair performer, and then I had a regeneration from Renaissance Fair performer into Doctor Who themed Celtic music performer, and that recently regenerated again into Doctor Who kind of Weezer grunge, bubble grunge kind of punks kind of music performer. So that's the interesting twist with me is that I'm a singer-songwriter, and I was an Irish musician who, instead of staying true to my roots, I went actually true to my roots, and I went back to what I listened to in college and high school, and I picked up an electric, and I bought a keyboard and started playing a lot more distortion, and that's what my latest album is, and it's all Doctor Who themed.
Very cool. All right.
And also, you'll hear I have special news about a new direction our music will be going.
Ooh,
that
nice.
I can talk about on your shows today, because it's the first time in 5 years my music will be going in a slightly new direction. And yours can be the official media announcement.
Ah,
of that new
very
direction.
nice. And I hear another voice with us. Who do we have with us?
We have with us today my father, and his name is Donald.
Hello.
Hey, Donald. Thank you very much for joining us. So
Sure.
I'm going to go not so much to the Doctor Who roots, but the music roots to start out with. So, Donald, I take it you've been a longtime musician, either amateur or professionally, but it's been part of your life for a long time?
Yes. Actually, I'm in my 6th decade at this time, and I've been playing since I was about 11 on stage.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I'm one of those people that was had a major impact watching the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. So when the Beatles came on Ed Sullivan, my world changed. I had already played guitar, but at that time you played what was officially called plectrum guitar. So you played little cowboy songs and that sort of thing.
Sure.
As soon as we saw the Beatles, the world changed for everybody. So I started playing in bands and teen centers from then on. And here I am, all these years later.
Did you did you write your own music? Did you do mostly covers, is what you call them now? Back then you were just doing songs, right?
Well, at that time, we did exclusively covers. Not only that, most of your song list would be Beatles tunes.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to work, that's how you when a Beatles came out with an album, you learned every song, every lick, every chord, where they had to scrape their picks, everything. You tried to dress like them, look like them, do anything you could to be like the Beatles. And this is in the mid-'60s. So that was the first influence. By the time that because I played in bands every week throughout middle school and also high school. And by the time I was probably 11th, 12th grade, I began writing my own material. So when I got to college, I literally played 6 nights a week, paying my way, and I did a single and played a ton of original material. So at that place, I played for years in a place called Ireland's, which of course influenced me musically for the rest of my life and influenced Ken as well. So that was a very seminal period in my background. I did gigs with throughout the late 60s. I was a backup musician for just about every major act that came into Florida.
And who's that guy that you played bass for?
Jeepers. I played with Neil Diamond and the Beach Boys and Bobby Goldsboro and a whole bunch of people that are dead now. And so they're, but if they were a big band and came into Florida at that time, the company that I became like a house musician with, they would bring me out and I would travel with them in Florida.
Tell my favorite story about. Do you remember a band called Golden Earring? Their big songs were Twilight Zone and Radar Love. Do you remember these songs?
Yes.
Okay, Dad, tell these stories. These are my favorite band stories, Fizz. Before we go back to our career, my dad actually, when I started my career as Ken Spivey around 2002 or whenever, I had to overcome the fact that my father was so incredibly famous in Tampa just maybe 10, 15 years earlier that people kept showing up to see him. So, briefly, my dad has my favorite band story of his, of him opening for Golden Earring and what happened the next night.
Well, the guys from Europe, and they were from, I think it was Belgium, and they came out to see me because, for a bizarre reason, mostly monetary, I was a single playing an acoustic.
Yeah.
They would put me with these metal bands that I would open, and so you're playing to 12,000 people, but who wants to hear some 19-year-old playing an acoustic guitar when you came to hear Radar Love?
Apparently a lot of people.
Yeah, well, they did. Well, it was weird. You'd get like a tiny percentage that just loved you. There would be all the real metalheads who were like, get off the stage. I mean, but you got very tough. I mean, you really did. But anyway, the guys from the band really liked what I did, and I was playing in a small restaurant. They all showed up.
Oh, how fun!
Well, what I didn't realize, they didn't speak English. All of their songs they learned by just memorizing the noises of English.
Phonetically.
Yes, and so I had to, after I met them and was talking with their manager and everything, I went back to my head, and I realized that their accents were so thick on stage, and it was interesting because it really didn't even hit me at the time. Because then you're like, well, we're going to play a song now called Radar Love. And they only knew enough English to get on and off the stage.
Another my favorite story.
That is.
I don't know.
No. The best part is that how they would come and they saw you at your single the next night.
Yes, that's it. And they came out. They're in this little restaurant. Here are all these guys, and everybody's dressed all nice, and these guys dressed the part of a 70s rock band.
Right.
I mean, they look like something out of Spinal Tap. They kind of stuck out. And they really did. Everybody's all dressed nicely. This is a nice restaurant.
Sure.
They got right up in front of the stage. It was very cool. I also did a
Yes, but they got in front of the stage, and then the way he's always told the story is they got in front of the stage, dressed as rock stars in this restaurant where everyone's dressed nicely, and they get in front of the stage going, "We love you, Ken Spivey. We love you so much."
It was surreal.
But no one knows that they didn't know who they were. This incredibly famous band.
Wonderful. Yeah, at that time they had like #1 song in the world.
Wow.
And so it was amazing.
This is my favorite band story of my father. So you talked briefly about his career. The weird metal band Golden Earring sounding like a Swedish chef. Hearing my dad at an Irish restaurant is just too good.
Oh, and then they had me another time. I opened for Robin Trower.
Okay.
I don't know if you know who Robin Trower is.
Yes.
But at that time, he was actually being billed as the White Jimi Hendrix. That's when they could actually say such things on the radio.
He was known as a great guitarist.
Oh, he was. He was astonishing. But you don't put a guy doing, songs by John Denver covers or original songs. They don't want to hear any song just before they hear Robin Trower. It was like Satan got on the stage. You know,
Yes, I
if
can
Saddam
imagine.
Hussein had walked out in the 9/11 and said, "Hi guys, I'm going to do some songs for you," that was the reaction that I got. You've never felt such intense loathing in your entire life as I got. So again, it made this very, very tough. After that, very quickly, I went through years of playing those kind of gigs. By the time I was in my late 20s, I decided that lady that I loved, we got to get married, and we settled down. Kenny came along. I started into the club scene. Played what we used to call snob rock, which is basically you're playing in country clubs. You play the same material that you played always. You just wore tuxedos.
Okay.
So I played snob rock for many, many years. Long about 10 years ago or so. Kenny will talk more about his background because I got him into music very early on.
No, well, very early on. I was a rebellious youth, as rebellious youth tend to be, and I wanted to be anything other than what my dad was, which was a musician. So I
So
did not get into music early on in my life.
I
Not
got
not as early as well as we should have. Also, you didn't even teach me how to play guitar.
Well, no, I didn't feel that was appropriate.
So I'm going to stop you there and kind of give you a little bit, and then I want to get a little more information. I know exactly what you're saying, Ken. You reach a point where you're a rebel. My father always called me hotshot, and I reached the age when I was like 12 or 13. I went, my name is, Jesse. Do not call me hotshot. And he never did again. And I almost wanted to beg him when I got to be, in my 30s, Dad, I'd love to hear you call me hotshot again. I was a stupid punk kid, but some bells you can't unring. In our household, I was not affected by the Beatles. I was born in 59. Our house, as the old joke is...
You were born in 59. Your voice, you sound like you're my age or younger.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So, but, in our household...
I thought you were about 25. Okay, sorry.
No. That's funny. I hear you.
I was into.
Yeah.
I thought you were about
Yeah.
my age.
So, born in 59, but, we were raised with both kinds of music, country and Western.
Uh-huh.
You loved Johnny Cash. You loved Merle Haggard. You loved Hank Williams. My wife is shocked at times when this 1960s, country and Western top 40 song comes up, and, I can sing this Merle Haggard song, and she's like, how in the world do you know this song? And I said, well, Mama tried, and, Daddy Frank played the guitar. I mean, I grew up with this kind of stuff. So we talked a little before we recorded. Even though my dad would have loved to show me how to play the guitar, I never learned. And so, and you guys gave me great advice about making sure my dad's guitar stays in good shape. But, so you were a little rebel, huh, Ken? And you didn't... What were you into growing up? Since your dad was into music, what did you do?
Well, what I was into was, I kind of was into, anything but that. I rebelled backwards. I wanted to be a little academic.
Okay.
I studied a lot about history, and I was really into ancient Greek and Roman history my entire life.
Okay.
And I was like, none of that rock and roll stuff. That's what my father does. I don't want to do any of that.
Yeah.
And that it's the opposite way of rebelling, is that my dad did rock and roll. I can't rebel by doing that.
Right.
I'm not going to be a musician. I'm going to be an academic. My father, even though he has a master's, it's in economics. It's a math major. I was going to go real hardcore history. I went to an all-boys school for middle school, and then I was very sickly and went through a homeschool period, so I hit public high school. I only had 2.5 years of public high school, where it was actually co-ed, and I was a very awkward, overweight, nerdy, awkward. Just I was everything that what everybody did not want you to be.
Yeah.
So I very strictly, it's amazing whenever you're 15 what your metabolism can do quickly
Yeah.
if you put your mind to it. And I lost as much weight as I could as quickly as I could. And I did not want to learn how to play guitar at all. But I was watching PBS, being the academic nerd that I was, and I
Okay.
saw A Hard Day's Night.
Yes.
And my world changed. And my dad had been influenced by the Beatles, but I'd always ignored him. If he said it, he was
Obviously, it
he was
couldn't be cool.
he was this old man that like whatever old man. I'm gonna do whatever I want. I'm a hip young rebel who's gonna go home and read Latin.
Yeah.
So I saw A Hard Day's Night. I became so obsessed with the Beatles. I cut my hair like the Beatles. I lost a ton of weight. I wore turtlenecks all the time. I got Beatle boots, and I took up guitar, but I refused to learn from my father, and I learned from a different teacher than him.
Mm-hmm.
So he and I don't play the same.
Right.
Which is very odd because years later, I didn't know how to sing, so he did teach me how to sing.
Mm-hmm.
But guitar-wise, we're not from the same school of thought at all. I come from both of us have a strong background in Bob Dylan and Al Stewart. Very strongly. You can't help it. If you're a musician, you have a background in those guys.
Sure.
Guitar style-wise, I'm much more akin to like Weezer and the Rentals and Iggy Pop and the Ramones and guys like that. While my father had stronger, I guess, 70s and 60s, what he considered hard rock was Steppenwolf.
Yes.
And Magic Carpet Ride to me, I was like, oh, that's just adorable.
Yeah.
And so he and I clashed musically. We got along in a lot of ways, but we clashed, and we worked together just because we had to work together a lot into the early 2000s just to make a living. We played cover gigs together.
Right.
Because you got to pay bills.
Sure.
But we did not write together until 2008.
Something like that, yes.
Very recently.
All right, so I'm going to move this to Doctor Who for my fans, but I'm going to ask one more question.
Well, this actually goes directly to Doctor Who, so you're about to hit the right point for that.
Good. What is the one cover song from both of you that if you had your way, you'd never play again?
One cover song?
Yes, in other words, the song that you played so often, either in the bands when y'all were doing that if you had your way, you'd never play that again.
Dad, what do you never play again?
Feelings.
Okay,
Feelings.
I can see that.
Yeah, Proud Mary, I'll still do again. It's kind of fun after all these years, but I never want to play Feelings again.
Right.
I never want to play Hey There Delilah ever again.
Okay. You know, they were interviewing the late, great Carl Wilson from the Beach Boys, and he talked about that, he got tired of playing like Help Me Rhonda as an example. And he said till one show, he all of a sudden hit him, this is a fun song. I'm going to enjoy this. So I think, Linda Ronstadt once on the Tonight Show talked about that she gets tired of, this was back when Johnny Carson was doing the Tonight Show, so this was in her heyday, and she was saying that she had done, she had kind of tired of doing Blue Bayou. But she goes, but I went and saw Frank Sinatra, and I wanted him to do all the hits. So she goes, I know now that from my perspective, my fans want to hear those songs. So that's interesting.
Well, what's really funny is both of us do a cover of Blue Bayou, and it's actually one of the most fun songs to cover.
Yes, it really is.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, we both independently cover Blue Bayou, and it's really fun to play. So when you said Blue Bayou, both of us smirked like we really liked it.
If you have an MP3 of that would be cool to share.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Okay.
I do the old Orbison version.
Yes.
I guess so do I, but I don't sound like Orbison. I sound like
you sound like...
I sound like me. I sound like Bob Dylan singing it or something.
Yeah. So let's talk about we've kind of talked music. Now let's talk the Doctor. So,
Sure.
first, are you both Doctor fans?
Oh no, this one I don't think I'll be challenged on this one. He started about as early as you can start. Go ahead, tell him, Ken.
Well, I was a Doctor Who fan. My father got me into it. Well, when I was, it's a story I've told many times. Maybe you heard me tell it on stage. About me. Every Friday night, my father would go play in the band, and I would be babysat by my dad's sister, my aunt, and she would. I was barely able to talk, according to the story she told, and she'd flip through the channels, and I was very hard to please as a very mercurial child, and I still am a mercurial child, and and she would flip through the channels, and I would point at the TV and yell "Da Who, Da Who,"
Oh, how
and
funny!
and she didn't know what I was talking about, and she kept looking for a cartoon. I kept yelling "No, Da Who," and then she realized that I meant that thing on PBS, this show. And in her words, she went, and then I finally stopped, and it was this terrible show with British accents, this guy with a flappy hat and curly hair and a long scarf and cardboard sets, and the most boring scripts I've ever heard. I knew there was something wrong with my nephew.
Oh, that is wonderful.
So that's how long I've been a Doctor Who fan, is my entire life. So it's a happy accident that all of a sudden the kid who had to get into music to become cool because he was a nerd, the nerd part actually caught up with the cool part, and the two came together and kind of became what I did for a living now.
Which is very cool. Is Tom Baker your doctor?
Tom Baker is my first doctor. I go back and forth on who my doctor is.
Okay. That's
right
allowed.
now, I had to say my favorite doctor is Peter Davidson, because last year at Dragon Con, it's another long story, but I got the chance to share the stage with Peter Davidson, and he played my guitar.
Oh, very cool.
And he signed my guitar, and his handler after the show was shooing him along, and he was so shocked that someone would ask him to sign his guitar, and especially me, who I obviously ran from the other side of Atlanta, got done playing my show, to let him use my guitar for another show with him, that it was what I used to make my living with. And he said, "I'm not worthy to sign your guitar. I'm just an actor." And I said, "No, whenever I met you, when you were touring, I was 8 years old when you were touring, and there's a long line, and I was too young at the time to know the difference between reality and fiction, and I actually thought you were the doctor, and you spoke to me for about 5 minutes as the doctor, and I will always remember that." So now, the man who I met when I was very young, when I was a little boy, who was kind enough to be the doctor for me, played my guitar and told me that he wasn't worthy to sign my guitar.
Ken, you're gonna make me cry.
And then he signed my guitar, and his handler said, "It's time to take Mr. Davidson away. Time to take him away." And he says, "No, not right now. I'm with a peer." And Peter Davidson told anyone that I was his peer. I don't care. He did not mean this actor-wise. He meant that he was with a fellow musician. But the fact that the man who, when I was a child, was kind enough to fall out of businessman mode, out of just signing autographs for money, this was at the 25th anniversary signing, by the way. Just a hint at when I saw him originally. Yeah, the Five Doctors had just come out, so he had signed my Five Doctors poster. This was at Dragon Con 2 years ago, or 1 year ago. I can't remember.
I think it was 2 years ago. I got to meet him then too.
Oh, you got to meet him then too. Yeah. Okay. So when that happened, the sheer fact that the man who was the doctor for me in person, then when I was grown, and holding my greatest passion, my guitar, which I write Doctor Who music on, being held by the doctor who said that I was his peer, was one of the single best moments of my entire life. It was up there with getting getting one of my diplomas. It was up there with well, that's about as good as
Yeah,
life can get, is that moment.
that is a hard moment to surpass. That is a beautiful story.
So, like, I suppose if I'm lucky enough to settle down one day, my wedding day may be the next day. That's as wonderful as that, actually. And as a Whovian,
Yes.
only Whovians understand why I would say that's that big.
I understand. A fellow Floridian, Brad Meltzer, who is a wonderful writer, talks about that the first President Bush sent him a letter saying how much he enjoyed the book, one of his books.
Really?
Yes. And so Brad Meltzer says, I don't care your politics. If you're president and you tell me you like my book, you're going to get the free copy of the next one. So I think no matter who your doctor is, if one of the doctors signs something of that significant and calls you a peer, that would be my doctor too. I think that's a pretty good story.
You had a great interaction too with
Colin
Baker.
Yeah, but well, my career keeps. I keep meeting the doctors, and like Colin Baker was. Well, we had great interaction with him on stage with a hilarious incident with. I have an Irish drinking song called the Rassilon Drinking Song, and part of the shtick before the song is it's about the greatest Time Lord of all time, Rassilon, and then all of a sudden Colin Baker was in the front row, and I said, "Oh no, I just said Rassilon is the greatest Time Lord," and Colin Baker was right there. So and then Colin Baker yells like you'll rue the day. and then if there's the videos on YouTube is in the middle of the Rassilon Drinking Song. My dad actually has the lead vocals on this one. In the middle of it, I lean over to him and I say, "Let me doubt this," and I sing the second verse, which is obviously made up on the spot, all about how the Sixth Doctor was the best Doctor ever, how his coat wasn't his idea, and if it was up to him, it would have been blue. And
oh, how wonderful!
So yes, I've had a lot of great moments with a lot of the actors in the show as a blessing from what some series of accidents have led to being what I've been blessed to being my career now.
Yeah.
Good. Well, so how did you talked a little bit, but you went from Celtic Renaissance fairs, and what I assume you got the idea, you did one Doctor Who song, liked how it sounded, and started going on. But
no, that's not how it happened.
Oh, great. Well, okay.
It's a funnier story.
Oh no. Okay. I know we're going over our time.
I am fine if you guys are.
Oh, yeah, we're fine. Mr. It's Mr. Jackson, correct?
It's Jesse Jackson, like the guy who ran for president, so call me Jesse.
Jesse?
Yeah.
Well, we actually do a ton of podcasts. We're having a great time. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're having you talk musician to us. So
okay.
Yeah, you got us. Like we're digging this. You're talking.
Okay,
Doctor
thank
Who
you very much.
You're talking singer-songwriter. You to ask musician stories. You got us. We're having. A great
good.
time.
Okay, great.
How do we get into Doctor Who? Well, it's actually a really good friend of mine, and I guess he would be like my mentor. He's my Obi-Wan Kenobi now.
Okay.
Are you familiar with a convention called Timegate?
I am not.
In Atlanta, the premier Doctor Who convention in the southeastern United States is a convention called Timegate. And they were originally two different fan clubs, the Doctor Who and Stargate fan clubs that came together and with their powers combined, instead of creating Voltron, they created a sci-fi convention. And and one of the men behind it, the Doctor Who part, who's the co-chair, is a fellow named Alan Seiler.
Okay.
And in 2009, I had a breakup with a girl, and she and I, before we broke up, had purchased tickets to Dragon Con, and I had no idea what a convention was.
Okay.
I love science fiction, but all I knew was that I was just I was a musician that liked women, and that always gets us into trouble, doesn't it? And this time he got me into trouble that I had paid for a hotel room at this thing I'd never heard of, and I'd already paid for tickets, so I was trapped with it. So I
Right.
figured I might as well go to this Dragon Con thing. So I went and I found out that there's an entire track of only Doctor Who programming. So I had no idea this existed. So I can't remember if it's 2009 or 2010. Yeah, it's hard to remember. But
hmm
for 4 days straight, I didn't talk to anybody. I had the best time by myself, in a very luscious hotel room at Dragon Con. You know the rooms are not
Yes.
cheap. So I after I had mortgaged my house and car and sold the title to my unborn child, I had this room. During the day, I went to these talking panels in the British media track, whoever knew
hmm
that existed, and I kept hearing Doctor Who fans talk about Doctor Who and Doctor Who experts and people in the field that were my kind of like my rock stars, but in Doctor Who fandom, like Lars Pearson and Lance Parkin and people that are really big scholars in the Doctor Who genre, and also some Doctor Who guests. Well,
hmm
at the end of the whole weekend, on the last panel, the last day, I overheard, and this was in Atlanta, Georgia. This fella named Alan Seiler said that he ran a Doctor Who convention in Atlanta, Georgia called Timegate. And I didn't know what a Timegate was, but all I knew was I want to play a Doctor Who convention. That sounds great. I just
Sure.
found out that Doctor Who anything existed. I thought I was alone in the universe. I didn't know that there was a fandom. I thought it was this thing that my friends and I from college got together, drank beers, and watched it on Saturday evenings on BBC America when the
Right.
revival came on. Well, it turns out that there's this huge convention, and they had just brought out the previous year Mary Tam. Oh gosh, talk about a beautiful older woman,
hmm
and she in the classic series was my favorite companion.
Okay.
Was Romana one.
hmm
And I was so jealous that I had missed meeting her, but that coming year was Sophie Aldred. Like, oh my gosh, it's Ace.
Yes.
And I asked Alan, I said, well, do you have a band booked for your convention? He said, yes, we're looking for a band. What kind of music do you play? And I said, I play Celtic music. I have a Renaissance Fair band. He goes, oh, there's so many Irish bands at cons. We're looking for something different. And I went, I also play Doctor Who music.
That's
And
so.
and, and
At
he
this
said,
point, I'm going to stop you. I'm seeing John Lovitz on Saturday Night Live. Like,
yes.
yeah. I play Doctor Who music.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the
That's
ticket.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, Doctor Who music.
wait, it gets more like
Oh,
John Lovitz.
oh no, this gets better. This is
Okay.
this story gets hilarious. Hold on, let me take a sip of tea. My throat's getting dry. Hold on a second.
Okay. Take care of that instrument.
Oh, I've had a sore throat ever since I just toured for 2 months. I came back with a sore throat
I bet.
and I sang too much. Um. Uh. Well, he said, you have a Doctor Who band? I said, sure I do. And I actually at the time at Ren Fairs I'd been playing a single. So I didn't even have a band. So I got back home and I called my father and I said, Dad, I haven't played together in a long time. I said, there's a gig up in Atlanta. You want to play some Doctor Who music? He says, what do we got to do? I said, I don't know. We'll just write some Irish music. He says, what's Irish? Like, well, I've done Irish music, but what do you mean? I said, I don't know. Let's just write some Bob Dylan music and sing it with an Irish accent. And he goes, all right, we can do that. But it gets better. Alan Seiler then sends an email a week later and he says, I have a band too, and we do a lot of geek rock. And we have a song called Turn Left based on the episode, obviously Turn Left.
Right.
What are the names of some of your songs? So
No, not just some. He wanted 10.
10
Yeah.
songs.
10.
10 songs, yes. So we made up on the spot 12 songs just to beat the top name. So we wrote the song titles before the songs. And then we had to go back and between when is Dragon Con, like November or something?
Yeah,
September.
it was about
Yeah, it's so Labor Day
Yeah.
weekend, so
Yeah,
yes.
it's September of one year. Between then and May of the next year, we had to write songs based on song titles that we created on the spot to answer an email within 10 minutes.
That's
And
a way to
That'd be my
go.
first album.
And then what happened at that was on the way up to the booking itself, we had no idea what we were getting into. And also, he said, "Can you also sit on panels?" And I had never been on a talking panel. So I also agreed to talking panel. So I got up there, never been on a talking panel in my life, kind of BS my way into that. Ended up on 8 Doctor Who talking panels. Our show was a giant hit. We had never seen an audience react like this. MTV happened to have been there that day and wrote an article on us. And one of the directors from Dragon Con was there and booked us for that fall. And then we got into Dragon Con, got an article written on us on an MTV when a band that was if you watch the YouTube videos of our first show, our eyes look like we're insane because we're looking around. It's actually us trying to remember what the lyrics are.
Sure.
And then also the look of terror on our faces after we got done playing a song when the audience cheered, it scared us because it cheered so loudly. Like, oh my gosh! We weren't expecting that. So this all started with a lie. I had a bad breakup that led to me asking my dad into a band based on a lie, built on another lie, and then that convention led into Dragon Con, and also it led to me starting my own convention by accident right after that because we had gotten so popular online due to the nature of social networking that we didn't know we were popular already. So we had a show booked at a coffee shop in July in Orlando, and we thought 50 people would show up, and 350 people showed up, and it became an all-day event, and it ended up with panels. And I'm not sure if you've heard of the convention Time Lord Fest.
You mentioned it. You mentioned it on the in the panel I saw you at in Dragon Con, and I've also read the website and seen about it.
It's now actually numbers wise bigger than Timegate. It's our 1-day Doctor Who convention. It's not a 3-day one. We just do a 1-day one, and ours is based on a rock convention because until this year we didn't have any guests from the show. It was just us, and now and we always warn people to buy in advance because we sell out. We have we can easily sell out in the next couple of days if we're not careful. I keep telling people buy tickets now. We hold 1 or 2 a year, and we keep selling out, and they keep getting bigger. And it's the way our business model works. As I think it's a very humble and noble one. Is that we hold Time Lord Fest to raise enough money for us to put out an album every year, so that we can take the money from that, pay our bills, and tour for the rest of the year. Put on a convention to do the same thing again the next year.
Yeah.
And that has just gotten bigger. It's gotten bigger and bigger. And this one, the RSVPs are up to 2,600 RSVPs on Facebook. That's much more than the facility will hold. If you're listening to this, buy your ticket right now if there's any left.
Really.
So, real quick, tell us how to get tickets and where to go get for more information, and then we'll get back to talking again.
Sure. Go to kenspivey.com, and it's pretty evident from there. It's listed as one of our shows. So click on Time Lord Fest or you go to timelordfest.com. You can find out the same thing. But honestly, I forget to update our website for that.
Yeah.
So go to kenspivey.com because I remember
under events. Yeah.
It's on the front page.
Okay. It's Sunday, October 19th.
You must be looking at it.
I am looking at it right now. It looks like 11 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm. And we actually we have with us another musician, Louis Robinson, who was also a producer and film editor during the John Pertwee era. And he sounds very, very Al Stewart. So if you've not heard him, you're in for a treat. He's another gentleman I'm a musician, so people that I book at my convention tend to be people that I both get along with and have shared a beer or two with me.
Right.
So, and the other guest this year is our first really huge guest is the prop and film, the prop editor, prop maker, and costume designer for Doctor Who. The guy who did the wings on the Weeping Angels, did the Impossible Astronaut suit, all the Time Lord robes of the new show, all the stuff. Guy named Robert Alsop. He and I had a few beers together and at a few cons ago, and we didn't quite know who we were, and we got along really well. And after every show, at conventions, we promise not to drink during the course of the show because we'll be too sloppy to play until the last night. Well, at Timegate earlier this year, at the band after party, Mr. Alsop, I want to call him Robert, but I suppose on here I should call him Mr. Alsop. Came to the band after party, and we were several sheets to the wind, sharing a bottle of very strong flavored water. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Yes. And he said, "Time Lord Fest. What's that?" I said, "It's this convention I have." And he says, "Can I come down and hang out for a week?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And he says, "Oh, can I come?" I went, "Yes." So Mr. Alsop's coming down. And,
how very fun.
Yes, and it's cool. He calls me to work, just to chat, and he'll be saying, "Oh, tomorrow I've got to do a fitting tomorrow with Benedict Cumberbatch and Tom Hiddleston, and and all these things that he'll say. And the next room is John Cleese. I got to do something for Monty Python next." And
that's awesome.
And then he's
actually leaving a movie set to come to the con.
Yes, I can't even say what the movie is. And I know the movie he's working on right now. And he is our huge guest, and he is a wonderful human being who's coming to our convention because he is fans of the band and gets along with us, and he shared some pints with us.
Yep.
Very nice. Now, will you does the show end with a big set?
Actually, okay. I haven't talked to Dad about this. We've hinted at it. We normally have one big show during this.
Mm-hmm.
Since it's so long, and at this one we have 4 stages instead of 1 or 2 because the venue is so much larger.
Okay.
I'm thinking about doing one traditional set where it's just all of our greatest hits. Our hardcore fans, there's certain, we have our Louis that we have to play at every show. We have like our song Rose Tyler. Why did you let Rose Tyler go? Is if we don't play that, we might get pistol whipped.
Right.
Well, we also have all of our stuff it's very Pink Floyd sounding. There's a 2.5-minute long instrumental called Oswin Part 2, which I wrote the arrangement to, and Dad plays this gorgeous Pink Floyd type lead to it. We've never played live, and we have this new great singer and keyboard player in the band named Brooke Poulin, who I actually went to university with, and she has a master's in music. So we finally have. Oh,
I'm sorry,
yes.
to interrupt you. Was she the one who was singing with you and Donald at the very last panel? Kind of acoustical.
Yes, sir. She is. She's a
beautiful voice.
She was holding back, sir.
Yeah, I will tell you, the listeners, that one of the fun things about Dragon Con is you should expect the unexpected. And in this one, we were closing out the Filk track, and Ken looked at the audience. There was a good group, 30, 40 people, maybe even more. And he says, I've done all these panels, I've played all these shows. Do you mind if we just fool around and try some different stuff? And so the 3 of them, they actually talked beforehand. Okay, can we try this? Let's try this. and they did some brand new material. They tried some different arrangements. It was not only entertaining, but for those of us who like seeing how the magic is made and kind of the mechanics of entertainment and creativity, it was really a nice peek into that process.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if you realize on stage, I wrote new lyrics and handed them to the band real quick right then on stage.
I thought so. It was pretty fun.
So I literally on stage all of a sudden said like I rewrote the song real quick in my head. Here's the lyrics.
Mhm.
And well, that was at that point at DragonCon. I'm also what is the thing? It's not a guest, a attending professional.
Right.
And I also run a it's a track below a track. I run the Brit Track After Dark, so I lead. I'm a track director within the track of the Brit
Okay.
Track. So I led 10 talking panels myself that weekend, and
Yeah.
we had played. That was our 4th show, and I had done 10 panels. So
Yes.
I was beat.
Mhm.
And so at that point, we really wanted to kick back and have fun. And so we thought we were terrible, honestly.
Yeah.
No,
So
it
I'm so
was a
glad you
lot of
enjoyed
fun.
it.
No, it was a lot of fun, and
Well, when
you
you were
know,
asking about that final show, what we're trying to do is there are certain songs we've never been able to play live.
yeah.
Now that we have Brooke, a actual opera singer who
Mhm.
plays keyboard and guitar as well as she does, and we all play keyboard and guitar. Since we have this ability, if you ever hear a song of ours instrumental on our second album, The Universe Yield, called Oswin Part 2,
Right.
it has, I think, 3 key changes in it. It has multiple layers of strings and tons of keyboard. It's to that date the most complicated thing I had written and arranged, and it was a beautifully impressive part that my dad wrote on keyboard. We could never play this live until now.
Mhm.
And now we can. And so we're thinking about late at night doing from 7 to 8 when most people have left, doing the artsy set.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to the end of our time. So
We're so sorry for rambling. You
no,
got
this
us
has been
talking.
wonderful. No, this
You
is
got us
wonderful.
talking singer songwriter and Doctor
in
Who.
fact, I'm going to share to keep us going for at least a few more minutes. My niece
Yes, sir.
lives in Austin, Texas, and her husband have a band called the Night Owls, and they are a 60s soul band that does original material.
Awesome.
So yeah, they're really good, and so they're very active in the music community in Austin. So when they got married last December, they set up a bandstand, and they did 4 different bands playing, and none of them were organized bands. In other words, just all their musician friends all kind of set up. Yeah, I can play at this time. I can play at this time. And so they sat there and they would play, 30, 45 minutes. And none of them had played together really. They just they did it for free. They did it because they love Ellie and Ryan. And it was so much fun to see all this. Okay, do we know this? Can we do this? And I think
that's so fun to do when you just meet good guys that are just good enough to play on the spot. Oh, that's so rare. Yes.
I think that's one of the reasons why I get a little bit of grief from friends. Like I was lucky enough to see Springsteen 3 times this year in a span of 30 days. I saw him in Dallas, saw him in Nashville, then I saw him in Houston. And they said, "Aren't you bored?" And I said, "No, because only 40% of his set are the same songs. The other 50 to 60% depend on his mood and what they feel like it." I said, so it feels like a different show each time.
When you're talking Springsteen, yeah. He's a songwriter god. I mean, we understand. Yes.
And so I think that would be kind of fun because not only are you getting the joy in your Time Lord Fest of interacting with other fans and the normal things you do at a convention, but it's like a miniature music fest too. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds, which just sounds wonderful.
Well, it started out originally as a concert. Our show was originally a concert that became a convention. while most conventions happen to have bands, ours was a concert that became a convention. So ours is the opposite.
I'm going to have you guys on again because we haven't even
Great.
gotten to specific songs or talking about that. I want to. But let me ask you, what are you guys thinking of the new series? How are you feeling about the new Doctor?
He and I are torn on what we like and why. Dad, you go first.
I think the series really found its sea legs with the last episode.
Don't tell me, because I haven't seen it yet. Don't tell me. Don't
Okay,
tell me.
okay. We no spoilers. No spoilers.
I think that was the episode where he's now my doctor. So he's the doctor now, and I thought they did a fabulous job with Clara. Her character is rounding out so well. So they hadn't utilized her properly, I think, in the last couple seasons. So
I agree.
I'm glad to see this.
In fact, I do think they have done her a great service this season.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, just much better. And so from what you've seen, what are you thinking, Ken?
Well, Robert did the Knights and Robot of Sherwood. So of course, the Knights and Robot of Sherwood were the most inspired robots I've ever seen in my entire life. And Mr. Alsop, that was possibly the most amazing thing ever.
He might hear this.
I know he might hear this. Yeah, he's real bad about listening to our stuff and saying like, you didn't mention me. I'm like,
yes.
So, my favorite episode was I'm getting grief for this already. Is one is that I don't like the Promised Land subplot at all.
See that?
If someone asked me to take over for Moffat for a season, which I have often dreamt of.
Yeah.
I mean, we all are capable of sins, and mine is hubris. What I would do is the episode Into the Dalek.
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't like that one. It seems like I love it.
Well, I love it because I watched it the first time at DragonCon. So, you're with, 2,000 Whovians, watching it in the big ballroom. So that's such a special way to see an episode. Yeah.
Speaking of, wait, it's 5:00. I got to get off the phone soon. Ironically, that young lady who introduced it, Caro, I got to call her in a couple of minutes.
So before you go, tell me where we can find more of you.
You're asking about Into the Dalek. No, just you reminded me. I had another meeting.
Okay, that's fine. Just so you know, listeners, we had booked this for 30 minutes. We are going on 55, and I know that if we didn't have other stuff to do, we could keep on talking.
Yes.
I just, because we didn't even get to specific songs and stories behind them.
Mr. Jackson, we would be happy to come back and do a second one for you if you could wait until November.
That sounds perfect. We'll do it again. Maybe after the season and catch up. So, KenSpivey.com.
KenSpivey.com.
There's links to get from iTunes, Amazon. Check out the music. It is absolutely wonderful.
And by the way, the reason why I like Into the Dalek is I would make that the story arc for the season, and I would make the Dalek Rebellion the main story and not the Promised Land.
I like it.
That's what I think should have been the story arc of the season, not whatever this evil Mary Poppins thing is. That's in a nutshell. That's what I think the season should be about.
Very good. All right. Donald, Ken, thank you so much for your time. Keep doing the good work you're doing. Keep spreading the love. Keep making great music. And I look forward to talking to you sometime in November.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Why did you let Rose Tyler go? Why? 'Cause she's so fine. How could you leave her? I'll never know. You let her slip away like a summer day. How could you let her?
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.